Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today I have an orchid journey for you. I'll tell you a little bit about this Oncidium intergeneric and let you know the history behind this plant, what happened to it, and how I managed after many struggles to get 4 flower spikes. So if you enjoy this type of content, stay here and let's dive straight into the world of beautiful Oncidiums and Oncidium intergeneric orchids. First of all, what's the name of this plant? I have no idea. No, I'm joking. I have some suspicions, but I'm not 100% sure because I bought this plant in a supermarket here in the UK where I live. And I think I bought these plants 2 years ago. I found the video where I showed you the plant from the supermarket and how I reported them. Anyway, I bought it 2 years ago. And back then, the flowers were fading when I reported these plants. What I couldn't see is that it had beautiful red flowers, and the flowers are like extremely very bright red with an orange lip. It's super striking, it's beautiful. I have another Oncidium intergeneric that has something similar, but the flowers are larger, much larger than these ones. These ones are more towards the small side. I like it. I love red flowers, and I knew that was a little bit different from my other intergenerics, so I decided to buy and bring it home. Looking online, basically looking at these flowers and describing something on Google like star-shaped red Oncidium intergeneric flowers, you can see a couple of different ones. The ones that look very close to this one is, let me read the name, Oncidium Space Mine, or there is another option here that Will Sonata Space Mine Red Rendezvous. Not sure which one is which. Looks a lot about the Oncidium Space Mine. So it's probably, if it's not this one, it is the Will Sonata that's a hybrid from this one. It's very close to that type of Oncidium. The flowers look a lot like that one. They have barely any fragrance. You don't buy this plant because of its fragrance. You would buy it because of the beautiful flowers. Although it's not the tightest display that I have in my collection, I have growth growing all over the place and also flower spike pointing to many different directions. It's not the tightest orchid display. And as you can see, I have growths growing in multiple directions, which is okay. It's normal, especially with Oncidiums and Oncidium intergeneric orchids. They will have pseudobulbs and super long leaves, and you're gonna have probably a tall orchid. So if you're looking for something compact, this is not it. Let's go to the history of this plant, why I brought this plant today. Just to let you know, the light is fluctuating a little bit. I might become darker and brighter during the video, and that's because it's natural light, and there are a ton of clouds in here today. So let's go straight into the history of this plant, why I brought this plant here. When I brought this plant from the supermarket 2 years ago, the plant didn't have many growths. I think back then it had 2 pseudobulbs and 1 flower spike that was fading. I reported it here in this channel, showed you how I would report it, and I did something similar that I do with my other Oncidiums and intergeneric orchids. And what happened straight after that is that I start to notice that this plant was getting munted down by insects. I had infestations of thrips and spider mites affecting my collection of orchids for the past 2 years, and I had a severe thrips infection. Thrips decided to munch on this plant straight away, and because I didn't have many growths, I started to get a little bit worried about it. What happened is I noticed that this plant was very sensitive to insects, and it was basically in my collection one of the most affected plants. Not only spider mites but also thrips were going straight to this orchid and were actually enjoying this more than some of the other orchids that were around. This is really common with Miltoniopsis, Nelliela, and some types of Dendrobiums as well, because of substance that they have on their leaves, or maybe because it's easier to break the leaves tissue and suck substance from these leaves. These plants are a little bit more sensitive, and I noticed that these insects will tend to go to them first of all. These ones were not different from those plants, which worries me a lot because I almost lost this plant. What happened is, as I told you, they start munching on the leaves. If I showed you these leaves, you're gonna see that it's full of grazings. I have the grayish grazing, I have the brownish grazing. The plant was getting dehydrated, was getting weaker and weaker. So I had to act upon it. If you don't know, plants' immune system as well, like ours, when we are healthier, let's say, we tend to get less ill. It's the same thing with plants. What I noticed, this one didn't have many growths as well. So it didn't have so much energy to protect itself. So probably was a mix of different things. We had the thin leaves, we had not many roots, and we didn't have many growths either. So my plant was more vulnerable than other orchids around. So it suffered more as well. Because I was really concerned and worried about this plant, I started treating it not only with some spray pesticides, I also tried oil pesticides, so spraying leaf after leaf, keeping all of the leaves very well sprayed and very well cleaned. It has been through many different treatments for pests. In the end, I treated with bonite, that it's an insecticide that helps to prevent and kill thrips. So it has been through all of these treatments because I was very attentive to this plant. I was on top of it most of the time. What happened is that I managed to get rid of most of the insects. So that was one thing. When there was not so many insects munching on my plant was able to actually push out more growths and push out more leaves. During these 2 years, because my plant was very weak in the beginning, these orchids didn't bloom for me. I was very concerned. First of all were the pests. After that, I needed to make sure that my orchid would push out roots and new growths. So I was growing it under growing lights with some other orchids, but I decided to move its location to be closer to this windowsill. Some Oncidiums and some Oncidiums intergenerics love a bright light, so I moved it to here to receive natural light. And on top of that, after I noticed that the pests were gone, I started treating it more like I treat other Oncidiums, fertilizing it with my other orchids, making sure that this plant doesn't dehydrate, because Oncidiums are a little bit more sensitive to dehydration, so you have to keep that in mind. Usually they enjoy to have their mix evenly moist or approaching dryness. And when they are completely dry, if they are dry for a very long period of time, they will show strong signs of dehydration, such as wrinkled pseudobulbs, the leaves will have an accordion shape, and the plant can suffer a little bit. Because I knew this plant had been through a lot, and I really wanted to survive, I not only place it here, but I start treating it with all of my other Oncidiums intergenerics, making sure that it was evenly moist, it had a fertilizer, it received enough light and enough ventilation. With all of these, and being really patient as well, and another thing that I can tell you here with this journey, especially with this orchid here and some other orchids that I noticed that are a little bit more vulnerable than others, the thing that I do that helps me a lot is I water my plants every week. But at least twice a month, I will actually remove them from the shelf and look at my plants to see the overall health and notice if you have any flower spike that is coming through, poking through, if you have any roots, or if there are any issues. So because I do this and I was observing my plants, I could see that these plants had issues and I could act on the issues. It helped my plant to survive. And not only that, it helped my plant to thrive. So while you're looking after your orchids, if you have a big collection, I know that sometimes our life gets super busy. There are weeks that I just pour some water and that's it. But there are weeks that I will actually observe one by one, so it helps me. So that's another tip that I can give you there. Something else was not to disturb the roots too much. Try to keep your plant in a place where it will be stable, because with vulnerable orchids without many roots and many growths, if the roots are not stable, if some accidents happen, or maybe if the orchid is just being moved around, you can destroy the roots that are already there, or maybe destroy the root tips and the root won't grow even more. So these were all the things that I was really careful about while I was growing this orchid. And what happened is, although this plant didn't bloom, I didn't give up on my orchid. I kept it there and I was pushing out more growths, receiving bright light. Now that autumn is here and it's the Oncidium and Oncidium intergeneric season, this plant surprised me, pushing actually 4 flower spikes. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting maybe 2 flower spikes, and that would be amazing. But one sign that your orchid is healthy is also the amount of blooms and how many spikes your plant will push. So in this case here, all of these new growths, they are doing super well, and they decided to bloom for me. So instead of having just a few flowers, all of my effort paid off, because I have 4 different spikes. 2 of them are in full glory already. I think until next week I will have all of them open, and they are sitting here just behind, in front of the window, just behind me, where I can look at these flowers all the time. These flowers last for maybe a month, something around that, around 4 weeks. They are not as long lasting as Phalaenopsis orchids, but they are not as short-lived as Cattleyas as well, so sits in the middle. And the advantage is that they have so many bright flowers, and they can definitely bright our environment up, and they are not difficult plants for us to grow inside our homes, especially if you live in a country that you have like intermediate temperature all over the year. Oncidiums and intergenerics tend to thrive in these environments. Only when you live in a super hot country, then you might struggle a little bit more, because these plants, they are sensitive to super hot weather. They might need more water, and you need to keep on top of watering them as often as possible. So that was everything that I want to tell you today. Was just a journey experience to bring you along and to tell you what happened to this plant and how I managed to succeed with it. Let me know if you have any similar stories to tell me. I would love to hear from you. I know that you can post, so I think YouTube changed it a little bit. You can post some pictures of your orchid on the community tab as well. If you want to support this channel, there is a membership tab that you can become a member. On top of that, there are some products as well that I designed myself. Lovely mugs and some eco bags. You can have a look in the store. And more important, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. I love to hear from you. I love to read all of the messages that you leave. And that's it. I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.